Hi everyone, how you guys doing? Good? Everybody awake after lunch? I always feel like we should do some calisthenics or something to get everybody back going. I am really excited to talk about crowdfunding today and what goes into making a campaign successful or a company successful after a campaign. I personally have worked with lots of startups who have crowdfunded and gone on to ship products successfully and build a strong company. But we've also all kind of seen the other side of it too. I'd love for you both just to do quick intros and talk a little bit about who you are in the world and what you do and what your touch point is relationship to crowdfunding, and then we can dive in.
Sure. So, hi everybody, I'm Cheryl Clements. I'm the founder and CEO of PieShell, and we are the new kid on the block. We are a food and beverage focused crowdfunding platform. So we have your direct audience, and so we are making sure that we're helping food tech companies, hospitality, CPG, and we're a little bit of a different platform. We're not an open platform. We make sure you know how to crowdfund. And we've put some hurdles you have to jump through, which as a result makes us a highly curated platform, and we've had 100% success rate since we launched, and our birthday was last week. We're 2 years old, so we're thrilled to be here. We love everything about what we've got going on at Smart Kitchen Summit, and we're just happy to be a part of it.
Cool. So we're Tovala. We think of ourselves as a kitchen solution, and what that means is we have a team of chefs that prepare meals every week that we ship to your doorstep. We do all the work. We chop the vegetables, marinate the proteins, make sauces from scratch, ship it to your doorstep. We've then built a countertop steam oven that's designed explicitly to cook those meals automatically. All you do is add some sauces, put your food, which is mostly raw, into the oven, scan a QR code, and 20 minutes or less, you have a home-cooked dinner. So your home smells nice, food comes out piping hot, you plate it, and it's a high-quality, super convenient, healthy meal, but there's really no work left on your end.
Awesome. So for those of you not familiar with Tovala, they had a successful Kickstarter and raised $100,000 in 24 hours. So they were, that was a sort of a very successful early on, and then went on obviously to ship the product. David, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what happened after the campaign. What types of challenges did you face? How did you overcome them? You had really strong momentum from pretty much day one. How did you sustain that, and what did that look like?
Yeah, so this was like April of 2016, so about 2.5 years ago when we finished our campaign. And just by nature of our business, it's quite complex. So what we had pitched in the Kickstarter was this vision of basically what I told you guys, of we're going to have this countertop steam oven that's going to be automated with an app, and there's going to be a food service that goes with it. We're going to design recipes, ship them all over the country. And we had an idea of how we were going to do that, and we had prototypes, but we hadn't done any of it. So we finished our Kickstarter, we moved back to Chicago, and basically spent the next 11 months building up the food business, the software business, and the hardware business. And we had to figure out not only how do you build an oven, but how do you build a connected oven, how do you build an app for it, and then the piece that's probably one of the most challenging that is unique to us is we had to figure out how do we produce food at scale, package it safely, ship it to every state in the country so that it arrives at a safe temperature and lasts throughout the week. And one of the biggest differences is that we're shipping a lot of raw protein. So you get our product, it's a raw chicken breast or raw salmon and raw vegetables, and there's pretty big implications for shelf life and food safety that we had to learn. And so, like every Kickstarter, we were a few months delayed, but it wasn't just because of the hardware, it was because of the whole business that we had to build and figuring out the food side and the software side and all of that. And about a year later, we launched everything simultaneously. So ovens landed in homes. We started shipping food to 35 states. Software went live. Customer service went live. But it's not like we hired a new team. It was the same team that had built everything, now suddenly had to operate a business. And that was extremely complex, but it taught us all of the things that were working, not working, allowed us to figure out what to focus on and improve, and then go hire people to help us operate the business.
One of the things I thought was interesting in our conversation before was we were talking about sort of the shift that crowdfunding has taken, and almost the name crowdfunding is sort of is challenging in and of itself, right? Cheryl, you were talking about how it's really should be more focused on marketing, because if you come to the table trying to raise money, you're going to have yourself some challenges. So I'd love to hear how you guys consult with businesses and talk to them ahead of time so that they sort of understand that.
Yeah, no, it's actually one of our banes of our existence, the fact that it's actually called crowdfunding, because the minute we say, where a crowdfunding platform is, we talked about on the phone, people are like, oh, I don't need any early stage funding. And I'm like, well, I wasn't actually offering you that. I was offering you a marketing opportunity. And, it was really cool. Almost exactly a year ago, we had a couple articles. We were super fortunate in HuffPost and Inc.com where they reached out, where they were saying crowdfunding is actually crowd marketing. And statistically speaking, the number one reason why people use and we're talking pretty exclusively the reward-based model versus the equity, because that will bring you in some big money, is that it is a proof of concept first. Then second, it's to market your company. And then third, it's to grow your community. And then fourth is the fact that, the free gift with purchase is that you might actually cover all your marketing costs at a minimum and make some money at the same time. And that's something that people don't really understand. And one of the, so we share that. We have webinars bi-weekly. We have office hours on the alternate weeks to try, because it's an educational aspect and to really help people understand. And, when you think of crowdfunding as exclusively money, it completely discounts that area of the industry. Like, we have one of the top 5 CPG firms in our pipeline working on a couple projects for 2019 because they want to get it in front of our audience of millennials and Gen Xers and really go to, you own your customer data now. Like, if you had sold that in a Best Buy, you'd have no idea who bought your machine. Now, you do have the delivery aspect, but the machine and who bought it and where are their demographics, and you get all of that information when you're able to crowdfund, and then you can have virtual focus groups, and it really can be exponential and very beneficial for your company as a whole.
Sure. And you also, you find people who are willing to take a risk on the front end, which means they're really excited about the product. They're going to be your super users and the ones that are giving you feedback. And, anybody who has crowdfunded, that those users they're very chatty. They have lots to say to you. They're going to give you feedback even when you don't want it. But that's really valuable, obviously. I think one of the interesting things too about sort of, the way people look at crowdfunding today is, you've seen larger companies jumping in. You just talked about CPGs. It's sort of a platform for testing out innovation, testing the waters. But what happens when you're planning that crowdfunding that can make you successful afterwards, David? Like, what do you think is really a fundamental for a company to think about before they even hit that go live button on Kickstarter or with your team on PieShell? Like, what should they be thinking about before?
So I think there's 2 parts to that. I think it's what do you have to do before the campaign to make sure the campaign is successful, and then what do you have to do to make sure you can actually deliver on the campaign? I think to the first part, we did a ton of work on the ground, just putting our product in people's homes and in offices, not only to get feedback, but to build up a groundswell of people that were really interested in what we were doing, and build up an email list and a contact list, and not kind of just launch to something that no one had heard of. That was the first part, and then press was the other part. I think press can really drive a lot of traffic to crowdfunding campaigns that are interesting, and we did, to as much as we could, like, we went and did a tour of New York and San Francisco and LA and Chicago and tried to meet with as many journalists as possible that were interested in our space, so that when the campaign launched, all of a sudden there were a lot of articles and people could land on the site. And then the last thing is, we were a small team of 6 or 7 at that time, but I remember the day the campaign launched, we sat around the conference room table and literally texted every human being we knew, Facebooked everyone we knew, sent LinkedIn messages, email messages, and it was either, hey, if if this product resonates with you, we would love for you to buy it, and if not, just do us a favor and share it. And it actually worked. You don't need tens of thousands of people to buy your product at the beginning. You need hundreds or a few thousand, and each individual touch point really helps.
Sure. What do you all do in terms of, I was looking kind of at the PieShell model, and you have a little bit of that incubation where you're looking at, like you said, it's not an open platform. There's that curation period, or part of it. What do you look for? What is a red flag for you, and what is they have a really good shot? What elements does that company have, or what mindset do they bring? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, David just summed it up perfectly. I mean, the people that are really all in and willing to admit they're going to crowdfund and actually, that's one of the biggest things is I think people are scared to say that they're going to do it. And we kind of joke, it's like online dating from 10 years ago. It's still so new, and you want me to ask for money and ask for help and reach out to all these people, and what if I fail? And, you've got to want it more than you don't. And you really, that pre-marketing, that David just talked about, that's what's really going to separate you from the masses. And, just like any startup, I mean, what we see is the people that are going to contribute to you, as you alluded to a minute ago, they are ride or die. They are ride or die. And, when David, had a super successful project, yes, he had people that actually paid money and shared, but thousands of people heard about him, and now they're evangelizing his brand, and they're out there talking about it. And so we look for people that will truly take the feedback we provide, because we will provide very constructive feedback. I mean, the first employee I hired brings 4 years of Indiegogo experience. They left the mothership. They came to join us because they wanted to get more into food and beverage, and the experience they bring is paramount to helping people understand what's required, updating your website, putting a splash, gathering the emails, reaching out to your press, and we share all sorts of cool tools and tips and tricks to make and do that easier. But what David sort of said privately in the white font kind of thing was, don't expect any platform to bring everybody to you. He created his own inertia. And you mentioned that we are not an open platform, and that's actually one of our secret sauces, is that you build your page, and we've blessed it and we've approved it, and then privately with a link directly to our site, you have to go out and raise 25% from that crowd. And then we put you out to our audience. And one of the reasons why we do that is because it's the best way to tell if you've done the hard work that he needs to do. Because we've all seen those projects where they've had $100, $200 worth of contributions, and they're looking for 20,000. And when someone sees that project, they instantly think, oh, that's a crappy company, or it's a crappy founder. And it could be they didn't know how to do it properly, and that shouldn't be the message that company is now labeled with, that they've failed. And so we have them do that privately. Once they do that, then we put it out to our audience. And the second reason why we do that is because I value the contributor as much as I value the product. Because as you talked about, these people are putting their money there, and they're giving you their opinion. And gosh, we say all the time, the guys giving you $50 are going to vet you more than the guy writing the $100,000 check. And, they will vet you like crazy. They'll follow your social. They'll find out what you believe in. And people are very conscious of where they put their money today. And they are truly saying, like, you made wonderful money, but what you really got was that validation from those people saying, I want your product, and they really are understanding they have a voice. And so that's sort of how we vet that. So we look for founders that will listen to that and take advantage of the greatest gift, which is actually their opinions on your product and the suggestions for maybe a better, use or feel, and really take that forward.
So once you raise, obviously there's a myriad of things that can go wrong, right? So, you can have delays in shipping. I think actually that's very common in crowdfunding, and a lot of folks who back crowdfunding campaigns have some stomach for that. They realize that, estimated shipping June, 2019, that's probably give or take a few months. But there's a point where, whether the lack of communication and transparency, or just sort of delay after delay after delay, starts to get to them, and that community, that sort of feeling like the community was with you and now they're doubting you. I've often seen where, if you've got a lot of press coverage and then you continue to delay, you are going to probably get another wave of negative coverage of what's happening, what's going on. Speculation is going to be probably your worst nightmare. For either of you to jump in, what can companies do when they're realizing we've got some glitches here? How can they best handle it so that they have the best shot at rebounding when they actually get the product out and move forward from that?
They just have to be honest. The bottom line is they've got to be, and we tell them that all the time, like, you have to be brutally honest and transparent. The people that have contributed you at that stage, if you are an early company and you're not, some big, CPG, Fortune 500, but if you are truly an early stage startup, if you have done a good job from the minute you've launched in giving them updates and being very open and honest and letting them know, hey, we're super sorry, this is what happened. But don't ghost them. Don't not talk to them for 3 months and then, all of a sudden the comment section in your social profiles are being inundated with the Twitter trolls per se, where they are, because they can ruin your reputation in a heartbeat. And there will still be people that will be disappointed, absolutely. But most people will, if you ask for their support and understanding and you've been very honest all the way and they truly see that you're trying to do right and be good, they'll usually give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, one of the things that I see sometimes that I think is, just a little bit of a flag for people who are thinking about crowdfunding to watch for, and we talked a little bit about this on the call when I asked you, David, about, what types of things happen to you after, how many offers did you get, how do you stay focused as a founder, is, people who go out and ship through retail, or suddenly they're on Amazon, but they haven't shipped to backers yet. And that is a, sort of classic example of a way that they got a little distracted, or they got a little, an opportunity came their way and they sort of pivoted, and it can actually be detrimental in the end. And so, David, from your perspective, how do you stay focused in that position? How do you make sure that you don't make the wrong decision that's going to sort of, even if you had this really successful campaign and you had all kinds of press coverage, what can be the downfall, and how do you avoid those?
I think there's a lot of bright, shiny objects that will be put in front of you if you have a really successful Kickstarter campaign, all of which seem interesting and cool and a good use of your time, and in reality, none of them matter, especially if you're at the very beginning of building your product. When, at that point, all that matters is define your minimum viable product, focus your team 100% on building that, getting it out to market, and getting feedback as quick as possible. Conversations that you'll have with potential partners and big corporations and different places you can put your product that maybe are not what you originally intended. Maybe you have a really cool consumer product, but there's potential for B2B applications. There will be businesses that have a lot of money and a lot of free time to waste on you, and it's really hard to say no at the beginning because it seems kind of flattering. But the reality is that most of that is just a waste of your time until you get your product out to market.
How many marketing companies reached out to you after your project?
I wasn't even thinking about everybody trying to sell you everything.
Oh my gosh.
And thinking that all the money you sold on crowdfunding is in a bank to be spent. That's not really what it's for. It's meant to go towards product.
Right.
But that's not the world we live in.
So actually, I just was glancing at Slido to see if we had any questions, and actually there are a couple for you, David. People are curious about Tovala. So both questions are similar. So they're wondering, what are the opportunities for Tovala in the future for hardware owners? Do you ever see them having experience with other types of food or food that is not provided by Tovala? And do you see Tovala evolving to be more of a service company or more of a hardware company?
So in answer to the first question, the oven comes with a mobile app that has tons of recipes to make yourself, and we launched with some basic functionality to cook your own food, and immediately got a lot of feedback from the Kickstarter backers and others that they wanted to do a lot more with their appliance. So just because they were ordering 4 or 5 meals a week from us, an oven takes a good amount of space on your counter, and people wanted to use it for other things. And so the benefit of having a connected appliance is we rolled out a huge app upgrade after 4 or 5 months, and now all of a sudden there's tons of foods, whether it's soft-boiled eggs at the touch of a button, or salmon at the touch of a button, or broccoli, or full meals, or kids' meals. Now people can use their oven for all different kinds of things outside of our meals, and they get a lot of utility out of that. And that came with the software update. And then in answer to the second question of whether we're more hardware or more of a service business, we have gotten the question for a long time, are we a food company or are we a tech company? And the reality is that we are both, and that's what makes our business different, and it's what makes it complex. But that's not going anywhere for a long time.
Yeah, I think people definitely are still trying to figure out, food companies are trying to get into tech companies are getting into food. Is there that hybrid model? And I think Tovala is actually a great example of, that is kind of the perfect marriage of both. Not everybody is as successful, but it's interesting to kind of see that marriage. Cheryl, for you, for PieShell, I was excited. I think we met a couple of years ago at SKS, and PieShell was very, very new. what do you feel like has been the greatest driver of momentum for you all, and what was behind the decision to say, we're going to be curated, and we're going to focus on a space, a niche. We're not going to be crowdfunding for everybody, which is what Indiegogo and Kickstarter and the big guys, that they sort of take any project, and it's across literature, and it's across tech, and you can find shoelaces and books, and you can find ovens, and so it's really mixed. So just curious about how you came to that decision, and how has that played out?
Yeah, it's, PieShell is the name of my mom's first company, so I have been in, food startup land, and I actually got into tech. I installed SAP, and I was a senior project manager, and I like to think I had an early midlife crisis, and I just wanted to do something better, different, and I actually thought of putting out a product myself, and I went to the big guys, and we sort of say they're like the Cheesecake Factory. Yes, there's everything on the menu, but they're very good at what they're good at, and it just didn't feel like the audience that I was looking for, that the food and beverage guys, and whether it's food tech or things like that. You have your own TV shows, you have your own websites, you've got you've got these phenomenal platforms for food and the tech behind it and all of that, and it's like, in my mind, I just thought they deserved their own platform. And the reason why I did a platform that was closed and not just open was because, if you go to those platforms, they have a 60% failure rate, 75% if you're in the food vertical. And I thought, I'm not running a company where 75% of my customers are failing. And I thought we can do it better, different. And my background with the SAP installation at Fortune 500 companies, helps you understand that it's a process. And 80% of the time, if you follow this process on crowdfunding, that's what works. And, we just really felt that they deserve their own space. When you talk about, yes, on paper, everything is there. I can walk into Target and buy pots and pans as well as, Band-Aids, but you can also go to Williams-Sonoma or Sur La Table or, something that is a very focused base and find some, amazing tech and, some great food products and, whether it be CPG or hardware. And, those are the things that we wanted to host. And, that's why our audience, what we use, we kind of say it's an undiluted pool of support, like the venture capitalists that work with us and the media that's following us and the foodies, just the hardcore foodies, that are there in our audience that we reach out to. They're dying to find out about everybody in here. They're dying to find out about David's product, and it's very focused. You're not putting it out there with, like you said, the wrinkle-free pants and wireless earbud guys, because is that really your audience? Yeah. And the thing you get as a result of a successful crowdfunding project is a customer. So, do you want the fly-by-night guy that might put some money into your item on that day? That's great if, the money is never bad. But you want that lifetime customer. You want someone who's going to come back. And some of the best companies put it out there, and for the next flavor or the next iteration or the next product launch in their line, they use crowdfunding to reach out to that group of people that from the very first day had their back. And then they turn around and they go out and give them the opportunity to, help them grow and adopt. And people love being part of something, right? They just love being part of David's company. They know he's there because of them. And, and I know he appreciates them. I've seen some of the communications, and, it's wonderful what they do. And that they can really get behind you and really help you get to the next level.
Yeah, in some ways it creates a little bit of like a hero's journey for people. It's a story as much as it is a product. There was a crowdfunding company I worked with. They were a tech company. They were selling a specific kind of smart outlet. This was like 4 or 5 years ago when smart outlets we were still wowed by that. But they ran into a lot of challenges because when you're building an electrical product specifically, there's just so many certifications and things you need to pass. And I don't think they realized that in the beginning. They were very technical people, but I think they weren't prepared for that. They were so transparent, and they were so genuine in their belief and why they were doing this, and they were very family oriented, and their story was very sort of endearing. And people stuck along. They stuck with them. They were there for it. They built this community, and they finally shipped the product, and it didn't really even sway people. And it was a $20 product, so people were not like, "Where's my money?" And I think that's a factor too. But it is. It's about building a story, building a narrative around that product and around that company. So. We are almost out of time, so I would love for you all to what's one thought you want to leave the audience with? And if any of these folks are in here and they're startups and they're thinking about, I think I'm going to do this, what's your best piece of advice, and what do you want to leave them with?
Best piece of advice.
Not don't do it. You can't say that.
No, I'm going to say the opposite.
Do it on PieShell.
We were lucky. Yes, get on PieShell if you have a food company.
Mojo Brewing's going to be on there if you guys want that coffee mug in a couple months, so keep them in mind.
We were fortunate enough to do Y Combinator, and the partners that we worked with there were the guys that started Twitch. And their lesson to us, having very successfully exited Twitch and seen hundreds of other companies, was the companies that win are the ones that survive the longest and are able to not only extend their runway for a really long time, but keep on pivoting and iterating until they really find product market fit. And Twitch, for anyone that knows their story, is like the ultimate example of that. So for anyone out there that's thinking about it, do it and keep doing it until you find that product market fit.
Yeah, for us, our biggest thing is we just really want people to know what crowdfunding is and what it isn't. We want people to know that it's a phenomenal marketing tool, and make sure that when you're thinking about how you want to market your company, think of crowdfunding as an option, and how you want to fund your company, think of crowdfunding, and look at them from both sides, and know what it is, know how much work it is, and if it's something that's right for you, we'll support you all the way. We provide a lot of support, and we want you to make it. As David said, I think the biggest thing is just I say personally, even if I can help a company make it one more day, that might be the day when the call comes in. That might be the day when you get that big order or the media article or whatever. And our number one goal is just to help you make it. And so we're just happy to be a part of the ecosystem to do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks, everyone.